Welcome to the Synapse Philosophy Group, guys. It is an awesome day, and I'm starting this early before we got into discussion, and I did it because Dwayne and I were getting into some meat, and I want to get it recorded. Now that I have you guys on there too, it's the question from our Mexican buddy from Mexico. He sent the message about what a KP luxation is. And Dwayne and I were just talking about it again, because I'm sitting here with the book and I can't figure out what this means. It's page 16, the chiropractor, third paragraph, halfway down. You don't have to go on it. We can pass on that, but we got to, I just posted it on the chiropractic history page. Yeah. And see if anybody, we can get some dialogue about that. Oh, wait, I'm not even on here. There we go. Let me put my camera on. There we are. I didn't even realize I had myself blinked out. How funny is that? I apologize. But yeah, so, you know, what is a K? It's a capital K, period, capital P, lowercase luxation. You know, he's saying that intentionally. And Dwayne had a good point. You know, maybe it's a typo, because there are lots. Alan, you're the master at finding the typos too. God. There are lots of them, but I don't think that's the case here. So, I think it's a pretty cool and interesting thing. I love finding this. This is what it's all about, guys. You know, the nuances of life. And we're going to get back to our masterpiece in a moment. But I just kind of wanted to clear up that question. And I want to give a shout out to Gary and his dad in Spain who listened to the podcast. And we chatted, and thanks for the words of encouragement. We appreciate it a lot, man. But you know, that's where I with the Cape. What do you guys think? The KP.
I got nothing. I thought about it.
I read back a couple of pages. We reviewed this we've done this book, most of it, didn't do the whole thing. We got to get back to it, but we've done this page. We probably discussed it, but I think I would remember that one for sure. I think we skimmed over it somehow.
I'm thinking like Stephen was saying, it's kidney, pancreas, meridian. You know, it had to do with the Merrick system, nerve tracing. It's a luxation. It's short of a subluxation.
The next paragraph, though, he is talking about nerve tension. And, you know, he talks about the next sentence down, and two or more of these diseases may be associated, may result from overtension on the fibers of one nerve, which ramify the portions affected. So that's a definition of subluxation.
Yeah, but if he's calling it a full luxation, that's more than a subluxation. So you're saying there's actually a disconnect in between the K and the P.
Okay. I follow that.
And luxation, the word means, insinuates it's a bone.
Out of place.
Yeah. Bone or joint out of place.
Not a full luxation. But you know, the words before are the qualifying words, or whatever you call that, like subluxation, less than a full luxation. You know, what does K? These are like initials to a name to me. You know, so we can chew on that for a while. What do you guys think?
It's an amazing group of symptoms that are all that he relates everything from the head to the kidneys. So it is a it's an odd conglomeration of nerves that he's all relating this one issue. And so it may result from overtension of nerves in one nerve, which ramify the portions affected. So it would almost have to, you know, in something like that, with the things that he listed, it would almost have to be, you know, like the 10th cranial nerve, right? It almost has to be affecting that. But what would KP luxation be that would affect that?
Yeah. I mean, even reading back, he goes to, it's like a kind of a why not type of moment. Why not learn chiropractic as a science? Why not be specific in adjusting? Why not learn specific causes of typhoid fever? Acquire the knowledge of why and how and where to adjust it? Why not comprehend how and why organs and parts of the body are affected by displaced vertebra? So he's kind of going like, you know, it's kind of like a rally you up moment. But it kind of loses the rest of once you get to the next page, he does a couple of more why nots, even at the beginning of this paragraph. But it's sort of, it just doesn't fit for me. I bet somebody's going to have a good answer we're going to get something. We're going to have, it's going to come in wisdom. It's going to come out of Alan's beard, and we're just going to get like, it's going to somehow wisdom's coming through. It's the day for it. Well, gentlemen, should we start on our masterpiece?
I hope there's nothing coming out of my beard.
I'm joking with you. I'm joking with you. Well, I mean, it looks like you trimmed it nicely because you had
no cooties on me, man. No cooties on me.
You don't. You guys, I've been kind of, anybody mind reading or taking turns? Is that cool?
You know, I'm always good.
Do you mind starting?
Barry likes reading, so
I've got
where do you want me to start today?
pass.
You've got yours too, Dwayne?
No, I've got noise in my room, so I'm gonna pass.
Got you. Did we end on, I have mine 220, I got 110.
Yeah.
Last paragraph. Is that
Is
right?
that where we're starting in this clinic?
Yeah.
All right. So we're on our masterpiece by BJ and volume 39. And so we're in the last paragraph on page 110. In this clinic, we have made it our business to locate that specific subluxation and bring about its proper adjustment. We have obtained and built special equipment to meet needs of special cases. We make it our job to solve problem cases, usually to protect the good name of chiropractic and at the same time being limited in equipment or perhaps ability to solve problem cases. No, we specialize in such cases. Having chiropractic foremost in mind, we go about the job of solving those cases. And in solving them, we automatically give the home chiropractor a boost. Our procedure is such that we never cause detrimental effects, ideas, or suggestions to come to the home chiropractor by any action on our part. But on the contrary, we actually give him a buildup honestly and constructively. When the case returns to him, the patient has more confidence in him than originally. Chiropractic will never become lost in the BJ Palmer Chiropractic Clinic. Principles do not change. It stands high, a thing of balance and permanency to which we always look to solve our problems, and they are solved under most ideal conditions possible to have in chiropractic. The many scientific instruments used and continually being developed are revolving around this single method of practice, this single principle, the adjustment specific. And I think that's an important line for things we've been talking about. He's saying the science is totally based on principle and is there to support the principle, and that's the only reason we're doing it.
Yeah. I went back to Dee Dee's on page 14. He's exactly saying the same thing. It's so nice to see that really traveling through from Dee Dee's early writing all the way to the last book of our masterpiece. You know, I mean, that's unwavered principle. It's a law. And that's what he even talks about, unwavering principles and laws. Go ahead, Dwayne.
I think the other really cool thing is what he's saying about, you know, if you send to the Palmer Clinic a referral, they're going to, number one, we're going to help them. And number two, they're going to come back to you more attached to you than they are to us. His intention to build up the referring chiropractor is really cool. And I think it'd be really cool if, you know, chiropractors had always done that rather than always tearing down each other.
Man, he makes it clear that they're not going to. In one of those sentences, he says it in such a way that as if to say to the referring chiropractors, "Don't worry, we're going to say good stuff about you. We're never going to say anything that's detrimental. Have no fear of that. We're not going to say you're a dumbass for why he didn't figure this out. We're going to build you up when you send people to us and send them back to you, loving you even more."
Yeah.
Yeah, I know chiropractors that won't go on anything more than a few days of vacation because they got nobody in town they can trust to see their clients.
That's a very common thing. It happens with me. I close the office. I leave town.
It's sad.
You have to.
I know, but you know, when they're afraid that their neighbor down the street's going to steal their patients.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's not a good thing.
No, it's not a good thing. You know what a great book Sigafoos had us reading this was Wallace Wattles, The Science of Getting Rich. It was written in the early 1900s, and they made The Secret from it, actually. But Wallace Wattles his book is amazing. It's really easy to read, and there's no such thing as competition. I literally have two chiropractors, Sal Martingano, very successful chiropractor, and Jorge Campos from Sherman is now in Melbourne, Florida, and they are literally across the street from me. I go, we adjust each other. You know, there's no such thing as competition. So yeah, but that's a little 2 cents about that. Thank you, Alan. That was good. You want to read some more?
Sure. Physical facts of cases do not in any way influence adjustment or time when it should be given, which goes back to something we've talked about before as well, which says we take all that, and I think it goes into that more in a minute, but we take all that data about what the patient says, and we have medical doctors evaluate our patients at the clinic, and we have all that as records, but it doesn't influence what we're doing. That's not part of the game here. Actual information of how, when, and when not to adjust is determined by neurocalligraph, neurocolometer, neurotempometer readings, and their interpretations, spinographs and subluxation adjustment, x-ray graphs, and reports. When these factors indicate adjustment, it is given. When they do not, regardless of how patient may be feeling, an adjustment is not given. Proper judgment, technical ability, and interpretation are chief factors in bringing cases back to health in this clinic. Physical facts obtained through the use of scientific and automatic instruments are for sole purpose of showing condition of patient before adjustment, condition of changes during patient's stay in the clinic, and final condition or result when case is discharged. These conditions are recorded automatically and without necessity of personal opinions. Building records is a very important issue in the scientific world today. Because we bring actual proof in solid, concrete, and scientific form that adjustment specific does get sick people well, and that adjustment is not a matter of psychology or imagination on part of the patient, but is the reason for getting him well. We record many things over which patient has no control, and therefore any change or improvement in such things must result from adjustment alone. It cannot be influenced by anything else because nothing else is done. Following adjustment, case is restored to normal health through his innate powers, growing healthy naturally. So there's a line in there that says that adjustment is not a matter of psychology or imagination or on the part of the patient, which what he's saying, he's referring to placebo effect.
Oh yeah.
There, and saying, you know, we're validating that it's not just some placebo. This is the real deal.
Yeah.
Conclusions of scientific facts and proof of effectiveness of adjustment specific are made from regular routine checks once a week. Excuse me. When case first comes to clinic, following examinations are made. You're about to say something? You're muted, Haig. You're muted.
Okay. Have you guys seen anywhere else of BJ giving a care plan once a week? I don't think volume 18 even goes through where he's about to, what you're about to, read in the exam, and then your wellness care, once a week, getting your check for subluxation. Have you guys read that anywhere else?
He's saying that the testing is done once a week.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean he's only adjusting once a week.
Well, he said, are made from regular routine checks once a week. See if you're holding your adjustment. 3 times a week came from Carl Parker.
Yeah. 3, 2, 1, right?
Yeah. But I thought that was interesting. I'm excited to read about his exam. It's just fun. All right, go ahead.
All right. When case first enters clinic, following examinations are made. electroencephaloneurotympograph, electrocardiograph, recording sphygmomanometrograph, sorry,
Blood pressure.
cardiograph, electrocardiophone, and audiograph record, which probably is AUDIO, audio, contour graphometer record, urine analysis, blood tests, metabolism tests, microscopical examinations, physical examinations, complete set of 10 spinographs minimum, neurocalligraph, neurokilometer, neurotempometer record.
Alan, you get a gold star for getting through all that.
They're tongue twisters in there.
Yes,
and
they
I got
were.
the electroencephaloneurotympograph right, but I've had practice with that one.
Sphygmomanometrograph. That's a toughie.
Oh,
Wow.
man. Once a week thereafter, case receives all these examinations and tests, with exceptions of spinograph comparative tests, which are made every 2 weeks, with a final set of 10 spinographs minimum when case is discharged. For protection of patient from accumulating too many x-rays in the system, spinograph comparative tests must be taken at best once every 2 weeks, all other tests once a week, neurocalligraph, neurokilometer, neurotempometer readings daily. So all the others, those three are done every day.
Yeah.
So they may be adjusted more often, but all the other tests, including urinalysis and blood tests, those are done once a week.
Yeah.
And x-rays every 2 weeks.
Hmm.
From this thorough routine procedure, facts are obtained through systematic and scientific comparison of records. We are not reaching opinions from theories and pet ideas, but from facts of comparative records and tests. Everything is based on procedure, which is not carried through with such precision and exactness in any other clinic in the world. In fact, we do not know of any clinic or hospital which makes such exhaustive tests once a week, under conditions herein described, or which takes as many x-rays consistently of each case, keeping graph comparisons, knowing minute degrees of vertebral change. Hurried, incomplete tests varying in procedure from week to week are not tolerated at the B.J. Palmer Chiropractic Clinic. Every detail must be carried out exactly, and in proportion are the conclusions accurate and facts scientifically correct. Nothing is left to personal or combined personal opinions of department heads. In every way, these scientific facts are recorded on graphs, films, automatically and accurately. Whatever changes are shown in case are true, made automatically by precision instruments, not influenced by human element or personal opinions or pet ideas of anyone. We scientifically compile true statistics as to actual physical and mental changes in our patients, changes as a result of exclusive use of an exclusive principle and practice, the adjustment specific. In scientific and accurate way, we are able to prove that chiropractic does get results. The results we do get are not matter of psychological imagination on the part of the patient, but real, honest to goodness results. They're recordings of scientific instruments which do not lie, instruments making recordings which any scientist or authority cannot and will not doubt. This is one phase of the work, the B.J. Palmer Chiropractic Clinic, one of the purposes. In years to come, we will look back and realize how valuable this work has been and is in upholding principles and practices and rights of chiropractic. Most certainly, we can look back and see that while many scientific but justified complications have entered the picture, the principle and practice of chiropractic have remained exclusive and distinct from any and all other healing professions, and they remain the basis or foundation for work and research conducted. Chiropractic cannot become lost. Principles do not change.
That was every student needs to read that. Every chiropractor, this is what we should read, when you're in the John. Hey, you just read the principles again. Just keep reading it, because he just lays it out there so nicely and said, this is it. Do it right. Don't do it at all. I
Pay
mean,
attention to details.
pay attention to your details. In my clinic, this is the way it's done because it's for posterity. Let's make sure we do this absolutely. He's not saying every chiropractor needs to do that, is what he actually says. But we have done it properly for generations to come to be able to use our research. It's done well. And I mean, just the fact of let's measure life innate the best that we can is well in our research. It is still not done for what I know. I don't know anything about current research, but yeah, interesting. I love that. What do you guys think?
I agree. Those last 3 paragraphs are extremely powerful. Just it's like his whole work of chiropractic all said within 3 paragraphs, and all the work from this clinic of 16 years, multi-million dollars, all these department heads, all these instruments, $100,000 pieces of equipment. No matter what you say, we're going to prove scientifically our principles. And by the way, fellows and ladies, this cannot be lost.
Yeah, it's a principle. It's a law. This is how we have determined it. And with a scientific method, the best that we can, we've created that.
We've done the science to validate it, and we're proving it every day. And we know it's true. And if you stick to it, it's going to do what we say it's doing.
Yep.
I think it's interesting that, you know, when we think of the most principled chiropractors around us, they've taken their notes system down to a yellow pad with dates and check marks. And that's not what he's saying here.
No.
He's saying take your notes, because this is where the science is until we figure out exactly how to measure these things. Take your notes, take your notes, take your notes.
You know, and that's why also McCoy, his work and all that work that he has done in clinical research, really, and writing these papers peer reviewed, I think is absolutely marvelous, because that's how, you know, the regular chiropractors, you can't, I mean, I have his manual of writing these things. He's rejected a few of mine, you know, and it's a lot to get those done. It is not easy. Okay. I'm working on it. I have given up for a couple of years, maybe 10 years to submit anything, but there's so much value in that. And we can all participate in those things when we do it properly.
Well, that's what I mean, and that's what Chris is doing there. That's what Chris has done with his equipment and the stuff that Barwell is doing. Their equipment documents stuff that is then preserved. You know, you're doing graphs and documenting things in your computers that can then be collected and used. I don't know if it's being used effectively, collected to be able to be turned into papers, but it sure should be. You know, if they're all that stuff should be going into some kind of central computer. You know, anonymized, if you will, if that's a word. So the patient records are not from individual people, but it could be collected and then used to turn into papers that validate what's going on when people are getting adjusted.
You know, that's it. And you know, it's really about being very well organized, if we want to boil it down. FCS, I know I'm in Florida, but FCS is, you know, we try and get as homogenous as possible. And, you know, these groups, you know, there's a lot of the intention to do it. It takes time, effort, money, right? It's not easy to really, you know, we're not Bayer Corporation, right? You know, it's not easy to communicate amongst ourselves. In a way, that's why we do these type of things. You know,
but it should be.
Absolutely right. You're right, Alan. Go ahead, Dwayne.
We should be. My ACP paper is actually on this topic. It should be. Our notes should be read by any other chiropractor that understood exactly how we got to the results that we did. From our notes, they should be able to recreate the visit. And
I mean, that's what all notes are for, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, but it's interesting that BJ had this to say. He's had other things to say about notes as well. I hadn't got this one in my paper yet, so it's good to hear this tonight.
Oh, good. You got a good addition for your paper. That's pretty awesome, though.
It's you know, it's interesting. I mean, BJ did this and I'm not sure where his money came from. And he obviously was spending a lot of money in the clinic. I don't know the costs of the visits at his clinic, or what
Well,
was where all his income came from that gave him the money to do all the stuff he did. But there's
historically,
certainly,
from the radio station and the TV
yeah.
station.
So, but there's certainly a lot of chiropractors that are, and principled chiropractors that are making a lot of money that could be contributing back by paying for some of this research. And
Well,
that's
you know, a lot of those guys, what's his name? He was the
and some
biggest
of them
donor to
do.
Life
I'm not saying,
University,
yeah.
but yeah, I mean, there's that. Who knows? What we know right now, it works.
Yeah.
And even applied, it's not about the precision of your work, because you don't do the adjustment. It's about innate expressing itself. And, people get well with what seem to be the most amazing adjustments in the world, and people get well from what seem to be kind of crappy adjustments. People get well from adjusting vertebra, taking pressure off of nerves, or allowing innate to express itself fully. And, that's the amazing part of it. So, okay, should we move on?
Sure. As we turn the page, we get to another misprint.
Yeah. Is it supposed to be
Pretty big one.
It should be can innate contact
Can.
education. CAN instead of CON.
Found another one.
Innate's not con educated. All right. How does innate intelligence, a natural, normal intelligence of eons of time, balancing abstract and concrete forms, building human forms as one of millions of forms, with its estimated 400 trillion human tissue cells in 280 days in the mother, conceived, developed during conception, all of which are properly placed, correlated, organized, given birth, and then directs, governs, and coordinatedly regulates, and an endless series of harmonious functions, none of which can any educated man understand, much less improve upon, all of which flows from above down, inside out, from its vast memory storehouse. How any portion or the totality is done, no educated man can fathom. All of which is beyond the comprehension of man-made, book-made, man-to-man, educationally assembled. Within these 70 years, when education needs revive some or all of this, and when this significant man-made assemblage of so-called education finds itself ready and willing to receive, how does innate contact education? Innate intelligence pursues the accumulative constructive survival value pattern. Educated man pursues the accumulative destructive survival value pattern. Educated man develops almost entirely from outside in, below upward, developing wars, decimating millions, starving millions more. Medical scientific research and medical researchers develop a pattern of looking from outside in, scheming how to formulate inside to suit its external caprices. In all of 5,000 years, constantly, and that word doesn't work for me, dinning into the minds, I might be dunning into the minds of people like themselves, begging for millions, none of which have yet discovered and developed a specific single simple cause and cure of dis-ease. As they look from outside in, understanding little of what they seek, they refer to supreme intelligence as the subconscious mind, beneath, below, inferior to their minds. Chiropractic philosophy calls the superior innate intelligence, which flows from above down, inside out, a superior conscious mind. What a marvelous understanding of himself the so-called educated man could and would have if he could receive from the innate gigantic storehouse of wisdom. From that reason, knowing he would permanently destroy its values, innate had foreordained an educated man would upset, rearrange, disturb, unbalance, attempt to rebuild all his scientific research, theories, if such were possible. What a marvelous transformation occurs when the simple educated man gets an innate thought flash now and then, which can be used to man's welfare if heeded and followed. Too often they are not. The obvious is so obvious, it is not obvious. Words are used to explain thoughts. How put into words the characteristics of a thought, idea, ideals, ideations? We find ourselves word bound to our thoughts as thoughts to another. This article is an attempt to use semantics to try to do just that. It's one thing to suggest the possibility of this subject, another to present a method of transforming its becoming a reality, and still another how to use it when it arrives. To overcome the handicaps of the limitations of education, to act upon the boundless and permanent talents, to convert failures to success. It's more difficult to prove such a factual and realistic in terms of methods of science, commerce, professions, and of personal benefit to individuals.
Let's pause right there.
It's a lot there.
There's a lot. There's a lot. You know, the influence of innate to educated. Educate can influence innate intelligence. We had a conversation the other day. I think educated can influence, and then, but can spirit be influenced by educated?
I think the only thing that educated can do is inform.
If you tell yourself you're sick long enough, you'll get yourself sick. BJ mentions that in other places in here, not in this book, earlier books.
But that's not because innate has been influenced. That's because the you create. It's like the example would be stress. That it changes the chemistry, and you can create that. You can change the chemistry by stressing about being worried about being sick.
Yes, yes. It's a thought. What you guys get from that paragraph, or from that chapter so far?
It to me, it's hard to, he's saying it's hard to describe it's hard to prove innate. It's that, we can't, I'm using words here, but it's like trying to describe a thought, an idea, or ideals or ideations, and I'm just trying to, the best I can, put into words how it all works.
Yeah.
From above down and inside out, that the innate power working down through educated, that educated is everything you learn and then what you think you know, and innate just is beyond that. And sometimes sometimes something comes through and you get that thought flash, and sometimes you can work on it, but if you don't listen to the thought flash, and it's something I've said to people myself. I said, the more you get those things, the more times you listen to that intuitive thought and act on it, the more of them you're going to get. You become more attuned to it. You know how that works, Haig. That's what you teach.
Yeah, it's a skill. It really, you can enhance it.
You have to learn to listen.
And take action. You said it. You just said it. Take action. What I'm really thinking as we're moving through this is that so far this may be my favorite book from BJ, because he's not. Most of his books he's thinking through it to get an understanding for himself as well. The more you're able to express something, right? And this is it. He's like, this is the end. I've done everything I can possibly do. It's just, I feel his heart in this. There's passion in this writing. You can really feel it coming from BJ. Should we just finish up to 117? What do you think?
Sure.
Yeah.
Humble was the beginning of existence of the author. There you go, Haig. It's going back to saying it's right. Humble was the beginning of the existence of the author. Jumping the gap of 60 years, we find him surrounded by many huge PCS buildings at the top of Brady Hill. Many acres of ground, largest non-medical school in the world. On the professional side, we find practical, workable philosophy, science, and art, involving tremendous values to many thousands of disciples who serve our work and works to millions of sick people all over the world. All of this and more have profited from thoughts and labors of this self-made boy man. One man? No, he was surrounded by several hundred loyal helpmates. How did this come about? Was it accident, happenstance, good luck, or was it based on sound, rational methods of approach and deliveries? At age 19, when this author found himself, he observed that innate intelligence, internal to living man, contacted every tissue cell, every second with every organ in the living human body, from above down, inside out. This innate sent messages via nerves to brain to body, told each cell what to do, and received reply messages in return, whether it was or was not done all the time from birth to death. Any internal, intellectually great enough to build that, what is estimated to be 400 trillion human cells, formulate specific organs to do specific duties, locate them in respective groups, correlate these systems into specific overall duties, start all working together harmoniously, is great enough for our comparatively insignificant education to listen to. If we could get it to tell us what we should and should not know, how, when, where to do its bidding. It has succeeded in doing right things, right ways for millions of people for eons of time. Therefore, should be good enough guide, informant, and teacher for us. It would be wisdom on our part to listen, heed, take advantage, and suggestions from innate to educated. If innate was immaculate enough to conceive, build, direct, control, regulate, and repair the building of a new complete unit of a child in utero 280 days, surely it was immaculate enough to tell the pretty education of a few short years, I think it should be petty, education of a few short years, what to do, where, when, and why. After all, the educated brain is one of innate's organs, built for one definite purpose, to make it possible for man to think with his contact with the environment, to compare relative values with ideas for surrounding conditions outside its completed body. While man does live entirely with the internal, he also contacts external worlds as well. To this end, innate constructed one brain solely to control internal functions, another to like limit contacts with external world. This knowledge of innate has been repeating itself in exactly same forms, same organs, placed same way, functioning same way in millions of people. And that is the end of that chapter.
Yeah, that was a great chapter. It was worth just reading through it like we did. We had some good discussion and that wonderful reading from Alan. Thank you. And it was just worth reading. And I'm thinking this whole time, we've got a couple of books we put on MP3 so far. And volume 33, 1910. And, having this so we can listen to these things, because people aren't reading as much as they used to. And we're getting this now in a cyber world. And, Alan, thank you. I think our voices will live on for generations, I hope, and inspire chiropractors, right? That's the meaning of why I do this, so I can grow. But if that's a good side effect, that's a pretty decent side effect, right?
It'll be a good legacy for us.
Yeah. I mean, like I just said, we had somebody from Spain. He sent a message. His dad's a chiropractor. He's a young chiropractor. Actually, he's probably graduated about when I did. I'm a very young chiropractor. And
really young compared to me.
53. But listening to with his dad, you know what I mean? And I think that is just so cool. Gary and his dad, who is a chiropractor too. So I just feel, it's like a warm and fuzzy feeling just reading BJ. And he's like, man, you're doing it. I showed you the path. Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from here. This is like what I'm hearing too. When BJ was talking about the science, was like being in his Ferrari in seventh gear, and then all of a sudden he talks about how can an eight contact the educated, and all of a sudden he downshifts. And
Yeah.
when he downshifts, he really gets to our principles of, listen, this is our profession. We are proving this or attempting this scientifically that there is something out there,
Be
and
proud of yourself.
we are the profession chosen to bring this out. And here we are in the States. Not every state was legalized yet whenever this was formed, whenever he was doing all these studies. And he literally, for the fight of our own profession, and even says here, a self-made boy man. So you can feel and sense that irritability he had with his father. And here he is at 19 years old leading our profession. And then here in 1961, when this was printed, or sorry, whenever he wrote this, which was in the earlier years, um, he's pleading to us, listen, this is what we're running on. These are our principles. This is what it's founded on. Something that we scientifically are just now proving the effects of. Can't necessarily prove it per se with our science, but here's the effects. And you know what? It's really no different than today's space program and NASA. We had X amount of planets when I was growing up. There's more planets than that now. There's more galaxies than there were a year and a half ago because the science keeps expanding and our observable knowledge is only what's observable. We already know there's 46 billions of light years on both sides. And at the edge of space, we don't see a drop off. We see a continuous edge, but we don't have the instruments to prove that. And also some of the philosophy and some of the principles are not able to hold that. So same thing with chiropractic, like they were talking, the science is going to keep proving this, but chiropractors, listen, this thing that's been here for eons of time, which created us and runs us, is what we're working with. Respect to Nate. Love it.
Yeah, this chapter it leaves the science behind for a minute and talks about and goes back to saying, comparing to medicine and saying education is one thing, but innate, if you got to learn to listen to innate, and that's the core of it all. That's the core of what we're working with is this all knowledgeable, all powerful force that's in every person.
Right. And I'll tell you what, medicine is observing innate. Medicine's paying attention to it. If us chiropractors think that they're not, there's another thing coming, because I've had conversation actually with a couple of cardiologists in their office, and they said, listen, Hobbs, we're going to give this to you, but if your body doesn't take it, then we have to do a test to see what it's going to take, because the body does have its own natural powers, what it will accept and not accept. And I'm sitting there going, that's innate intelligence.
Let me tell you about that.
Whoa.
Well,
That's innate.
they're not oblivious to it,
No.
but what they do is try and circumvent it. I'm reading this right now. I have got Dee Dee's book also open while we've been reading today. And he said, no, chiropractic is a science. We must become familiar with its principles. We must make it scientific. Know it as an art is to make it a specific. Make use of knowledge which composes the science. And then he says the principles which compose the science of chiropractic are as old as the vertebra. It's not new. We're proving what we already know. This is the proof of it. And it's going to last way past our lifetimes, because it is as endless as the universe, as you say. We try and see the limitations of it, but ultimately we can't yet, right? Because we're talking about the innate. Chiropractic it has to have a spiritual component, because that's the innate intelligence within. The animator of life. You can call it the spark of life, whatever's right for you. But you have to have that included in our philosophy. It cannot be mechanical. Dee Dee says it multiple times. What we needed is that educated to the chiropractors, because it's been out of our schools since BJ left. And Dennis, welcome.
You're insulting one of our attendees here.
Oh, sorry. Dennis, where are you in an institution somewhere?
And Dwayne's at Sherman, right?
No, not yet. I was, but not yet.
Oh, okay.
But this is the thing, and it's not about the spirituality of the president or the faculty. It's been dismantled from our philosophy, and it is
Well,
the
it's
most
it's
vital portion of
Western
it.
it's
Pardon?
Western institutionalized education or industrialized education.
Just like life.
Well, just
Exactly.
like just like from K through 12, and then your undergrad, it's all industrialized education.
It's
Um,
easy to understand in a mechanical way than it is in a
Very
spiritual way.
mechanical, which is interesting since we're trying to teach a non-mechanical concept in a mechanical construct.
That makes it
It's
difficult.
it's it's really difficult, and that's why people graduate confused.
Precisely. And that's why we do it again. I mean, honestly, we put this is from BJ's words. We're not making it up. We're putting it in understanding. That's what we call breaking it down. It's what the old guys did. And so we have this for ourselves and posterity. And so we have a reference. Gentlemen,
I was watching, there was a special one about George Carlin, and he was a comic genius, but in a way that he was just constantly talking about the real world. And one of the things that I wrote down that he said it was, I don't know, remember the exact context, says they're not using their heads. That's the problem. They are using their heads. They're not using their hearts. And that's the problem with chiropractic today. They're using their heads and not their hearts. They're using educated and not innate in their in
right.
practices.
It's easier,
Yeah.
quite honestly, right? Until you have that skill and hone it and around people where you can discuss it and get a better understanding of it. It's why, I'm not saying it's a religion, but we have to take it. I mean, how many times, I bet you innate is written, I might do a search on that. Innate comes up more often than subluxation in all the green books. I bet you that's I mean, I see innate probably 6 or 7 times just on this page. And I haven't read subluxation yet. I'm don't get me wrong, I'm for our vocabulary and definitely subluxation, but that's how important innate is, and
Well,
honoring that part of our philosophy. Absolutely.
what is the essence of subluxation? Interference with the expression of innate.
Yeah.
So the Treasury Department, when they teach their counterfeiter experts what's counterfeit, they don't study the counterfeits. They don't study the interference with real. They study the real thing, become masters at the real thing. That way, when they notice interference or a fake, they see it immediately.
Mhm.
So it makes sense that BJ Palmer say focus on innate, study innate. You'll see subluxation when it's there because it's not what you've been studying.
Yeah, I love that.
And Nate's the constant too.
Mhm.
Watch how she flows. Watch how she flows. Watch in the educated brain, as they say, stinking thinking. It's the worst neighborhood that you can have is in between your ears. So
Yeah.
this educated brain of ours is an end result organ, and if it's not getting that proper innate supply, it's not going to have it's not going to have proper thinking. And we all individually on this call, I hope, have experienced this. When you're well adjusted, your thinking's more clear and more sharp and more on point. You're not suffering with brain fog. For the most part, you are on sharp and you are on point. It's an organ just like the heart or kidney.
Absolutely. And you know what innate adjusting is, one of the main premises is getting out of our educated way and just letting go of what we think we know and allowing the adjustment to come through us. And there's a big difference. Once you feel the difference, you feel the difference. There's from a push to a proper adjustment with something special, but that's something extra. There is a difference in that. And that's really getting out of our way, out of our educated way. That's hard to do. It's a practice skill to think about. We got bills to pay and relationships and people and all those things, life happening. We had a tree literally fell on a transformer behind our office and exploded last night. And the power is off and all sorts of things, blah, 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 blah. And you know what? I could think about all that stuff going into the office this afternoon, or just give it up and just care for the people. It's not going to change with me worrying about it, right? I can serve the people at my best by stepping out of today's world, right? The fictitious world, I like to, or Sigafoose used to call that. That world's fictitious out there anyway. Focus on these people right in front of you. Yes, sir. Absolutely. We had a good night tonight. I liked it. Awesome. Good. Barry, Dwayne, Dennis, we haven't heard from you yet. It's a discussion. So next time, join in. Okay. Alan, thank you again. So much good reading and a lot of good information and input. And, invite people. Let's get this really going again, too. And everybody's welcome all the time. And, welcome to share. And nobody's right. Nobody's wrong. Let's put it in that sense. So everybody's safe. God bless you. Have a marvelous evening. Thank you.
Have a great week.
What's that?
I said, have a great week.
Have a great week, and I'll see you next week. Good night.
Night, guys. Thanks.